Hey, it's Mr. C, and you are tuned in to 1911, using statistics to draw conclusions. What does that mean? You're about to find out. Here, it's time to check your homework. I'm going to really encourage you to ask me a question if you didn't know one of these, as I can quickly explain it to you. But over the video, it'll take a little bit of time. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right, starting on our teacher example. How can you analyze and evaluate claims? Which basically just means, how do you see if what they're saying is true and it's an actual claim that they can make, or it's just baloney? Use the results from a survey taken at Lee Middle School to explain why the way in which the questions are asked might influence the results obtained. And the way that the questions are asked is basically the whole lesson today. Does the data support a claim? Students say no to bicycle helmets. So here, we're basically asking the same thing, but they're asking it in a different way, and we'll see how the results are different. So, if we ask 6th grade, does wearing a helmet make bicycling safer? 88% of 6th graders say yes, and 12% say no, it does not make it safer. Number 2, should bicyclists be forced to wear a helmet? Notice how they're both about helmets, but this one kind of makes it sound negative. Should they be forced to wear a helmet? Now look at the big change. 40% changed their minds. Now 48% say yes, they should be forced to wear a helmet, and 52% say no. Now does the data here and the way they ask the question support students say no to bicycle helmets? Well, I'm trying to think of an appropriate question to actually make this claim so you can say that. And I think there's 2 different ways you could word it. You could say, should bicyclists wear helmets? Or you could say, do you wear a helmet when you ride a bicycle? And then they can answer yes or no. And I think then you can make a claim of whether students say yes or no to bicycle helmets. But let's see how the questions can really influence the survey results. So question 1 included the word safer, and people, they're likely to support safety. They like that, so they're going to say yes. As we see, 48% said yes. Meanwhile, question 2 included the word forced. We don't like being forced to do anything. So when they ask, hey, do you want to force somebody to do something? You're going to say no. So look at that big jump. I mean, you could say something good. You'd be like, hey, do you like burgers? And then you could say, are you in favor of forcing people to eat a big cheeseburger? And they'd be like, no, even though that kind of sounds funny, but it's kind of the same. To get unbiased information, because these are biased, questions should avoid words that are likely to produce strong reactions in people. So maybe you could ask, should bicyclists be required to wear a helmet? Or should they wear a helmet? So the claim was made based on the results for question 2. Even though question 2 used the word forced, the results were almost equal. And what I mean by almost equal is 52% said no and 48% said yes. And they're about even. But the survey did not ask students if they usually wear a bicycle helmet, with the first clue word of Disney. The claim is misleading and is not justified by the results of the survey. And you do not have vocab notes today. Alright, so what you can see so far is the first question for example number 1, and I'll let you what you're going to write in just a second. Evie and Chad conducted surveys about whether students think skateboarding is dangerous. Compare their questions and the bar graphs showing the results. It seems that they asked questions about if it's dangerous, and we got different responses. I wonder why that is. Well, it's the way they're worded. Let's look at what Evie said. Don't you agree that skateboarding is dangerous? And she said, most people said yes. But Evie's question is a leading question. It asks students to agree with the response that she already had. She's like, hey, I agree that skateboarding is dangerous. Do you? It's giving your opinion while asking for somebody else's, which makes them agree with you. But Chad, let's look at this. Do you think that skateboarding is dangerous? Notice that you have no idea what his opinion is. It's not a leading question. We're going to say that's fair. What do I want you to write for this? Please write what I circled in blue and then the words that I wrote in blue as well. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. Now I'm going to challenge you. We asked a leading question over here to make people agree or to say, yes, skateboarding is dangerous. And then we asked a fair question where they were kind of equal and most people said no. And I want you to think of a way to phrase these questions for number 2 where you could really lead the audience to say, no, skateboarding is not dangerous. I want you to pause the video and think about it. Unpause it when you're ready. In 3, 2, 1. Now here's one way you could have done it. Yours does not need to sound like mine, but this is one way that you could lead people to say no. Notice how, would you describe the fun and popular sport of skateboarding as dangerous? Notice how I tell the audience that it's fun and popular, trying to sway their opinion. We're going to move on to example 2 in 3, 2, 1. For example 2, please read these questions and tell if they are leading you towards a certain answer, and how is it leading you in that way? What words make you think certain things? Now come back for example 2 answer for A, B, and C after you've answered them in 3, 2, 1. Please read my answers for A, B, and see if yours are similar. They don't have to be word for word, but they could be similar to mine with the second clue word of world. For number 2 of example 2, write a fair version of the questions above. They're all about a gathering. How would I write a fair version of those? Unpause the video in 3, 2, 1. My example is, should the city commission, you could use build, or should they finance a park in the Fox Hill neighborhood? Notice how you don't know what my opinion is on this fact by the way I've asked this question. Here's independent or partners practice number 1. Please write the question that you think is the most fair. Don't write A, B, or C, but actually write the question. Answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Should littering be against the law is the most fair because this one makes throwing garbage away super extreme by using the word arrested. And C, when it says government interfere, well, we don't want the government to interfere with anything we do, so we're going to say no to that. So this is the most fair. Number 2, please do the same thing. Write down the sentence that's the most fair. Answer coming in 3, 2, 1. And C is the most fair. I think everyone's in favor of helping children learn. Who's going to say no to that? I feel like a mean person. And when they say throwing away tax dollars, nobody wants to waste money. You're going to say no to throwing away money. But are you in favor of a tax increase to pay for a new school? That's more fair. Now I'm going to ask you to think on this. I want you to ask a question that leads the audience to say yes, leads the audience to say no, and then a fair question on the topic of a year-round school year. I want you to try. Once you have all 3 questions, you can come back. I'm going to show you mine in 3, 2, 1. All right, there are my sentences for leading them to say yes, no, and fair. Please read those and see and notice how I did that. Next one, please ask the audience with leading questions for yes and no, and then ask a fair question for their opinion on spring being the best season. I'm going to show you my sentences in 3, 2, 1. All right, and those are 3 examples that I came up with. These don't need to be exactly the same. These are just examples. Hopefully they help you. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. Next, I do not have Khan Academy video or practice, so you may choose one of these 2 options along with working on your homework after you're done. And you're awesome.